I'm back. It's Friday. Yet again, it's time for another shop update. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed to the channel so far. If you haven't, please do so. I would really appreciate it. I do these shop updates every Friday. I try to get them posted out on a Friday. Sometimes they're posted out on a Saturday. And they are updates of the different customer projects and shop projects here at Brooklyn's Restorations. Not a lot of hands-on, not a lot of like cuts and stuff like that in the videos just yet. That's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. But lots of fun talk about predominantly British makes and models of automobiles. So, with that being said, go like, subscribe, and click the bell notification icon, and let's start talking about some fun cars, shall we? Now sit back, relax, get yourself a snack and maybe a nice cool beverage because it's hot outside these days. So let's talk about some cars. Last week, I told you that the green TR3 here was going to go home. You wouldn't see it in this video, and I know your eyes are not deceiving you. It is sitting right here. It is in the video still. Because that's the rule of thumb. I think I even said that. I said if I'm gonna say it won't be here for this video, and it's going to be here in the video still, because that's how my world works. However, it is going to go home next week, Monday, Tuesday-ish. She's gonna be picked up. She's all finished. We had a few more things that we had to tackle with this. Now this car snowballed, as a lot of cars tend to do. People don't really understand classic cars. They do that. They'll snowball into having a huge amount of other things that need to be taken care of in order to rectify maybe that one thing that you brought it in for sometimes. Or a mechanic such as ourselves, we tend to be really honest with our customers, brutally honest at times. And we say, you know, hey, there's while you're in there stuff for sure. While you're in there, you should take care of this. While you're in there, you should take care of this. But sometimes we'll talk about it like, hey, you know, we could tune your carburetors, but if there's something wrong with them, we could either patch that up, or what we're really going to do is we're going to go through and rebuild your carburetors. In this instance, this car had its carburetors totally blown apart, rebuilt, because they leaked. They didn't have seals. They were physically just gone. The seals cork seals were just gone. Don't see that too often. Usually they're worn out and dried out, and they just don't seal anymore, but these were just gone. We did new throttle shafts in it. We rebuilt the entire carburetor setup. We redid the distributor on it as well. If you'd like to see those, I actually took video footage of them in the last video. The hood is actually pinned down right now, so I can't open it and show it to you. In this case, the upper thermostat housing, which you can kind of just see there under the hood, that was leaking like a sieve. She had a big old hole in the side of her, really filled. This engine was just filled with corrosion. Big old hole in that aluminum casing there. So I happen to have a used one on the shelf in my parts department. There's that parts department coming back in to save us. So I fixed it up, spruced it up, cleaned it up, restored it, put a new thermostat in it. We tend to use a thermostat called a fail-safe thermostat. So if it does fail, it fails in the open position, not the closed position. Thermostats that are the wax stat type thermostats tend to fail with the closed position, which means coolant does not go through your system, which means you can overheat the system. The fail-safe thermostats, which I swear up and down by, they come in a multitude of different temperature degrees, and when they fail open, so you don't get an overheating issue. So I know a lot of these thermostats have been subpar quality. The fail-safes are a little more money than a regular thermostat. I think they're about 18 bucks from Moss Motors these days. You can get them pretty much anywhere, but from Moss, the normal supplier for British car parts, they're about 18 bucks. Worth every penny. Worth it, and worth it. So I put a new thermostat in this one, fail-safe. I did drill a little bleed air hole in it, just for good measure. And she's good to go. Overdrive unit was the other thing that was still not functioning since last week. I went through and I checked all the wiring and rewired the overdrive system. However, after rewiring it, it still didn't work. Now I was going to pass that off to the guy who owns this, the customer, our buddy, who is also an automotive mechanic, and say, you know, hey, you know, we don't really have time to fix this, so on and so forth. He kind of begged, pleaded. He said, could you please figure out what's wrong with it? Okay, all right. So I went through all of the systems on this, those being the overdrive switch itself, the 2 lockout switches, and the actual physical overdrive solenoid. Checked all 4 of those things and ended up having to rebuild all 4 of those things. Now this has the overdrive lockout switches. There's 2 of them. On later cars, they're not rebuildable. You can't take them apart and rebuild them. You could, but you probably wouldn't get them back together. On these, you can take them apart, clean the contacts up, and put them back together. Is it worth it? Well, to pay me to do it? No, because they're about 15 bucks a pop for new ones. However, I didn't have new ones, and I need this car to get the heck out of my shop. So, I rebuilt them. Rebuilt the original overdrive switches, lockout switches, rebuilt the original overdrive switch that's on the dashboard, and also went through and rebuilt the solenoid that physically operates the overdrive linkage on the overdrive unit. And I'm happy to say that the car, after test drive, has proper overdrive in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. For those of you who are big Triumph TR3 fans, you know that early TR2s and TR3s had overdrive in 3rd and 4th. Later cars had it in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then I want to say by the time they got to the TR4, they dropped it back down to having overdrive in 3rd and 4th again. So this one has it in 2nd as well, kind of, I don't know, redundant, like just shift to 3rd at that point. I get it in 3rd. Driving around town, 30, 40 mile an hour range, it's nice to have overdrive in 3rd. You just click it, drops the RPMs. She seems to be a happier car when you're doing that. But in 2nd, it's kind of like, I'm just going to shift to 3rd. Like, I'm just going to go to 3rd. So, to each their own. It's a Triumph thing. I wouldn't understand. She's ready to go. She's going to go home next week. You won't see it. I promise. You won't see it. You won't see it next week. It won't be in the video. Now, I say that, and it'll still be in the video. It'll still be here. There will be something that'll come up, and a car won't leave. And it won't be like, it's broken. It'll be like, I can't get over there. It's all right. I just need to not work on it. That car ate up 2 weeks worth of my time when I could be working on the Lagonda. But before we get to the Lagonda project, let's talk about the next thing that got worked on this week. And this is Christian. Christian worked on this. This is the Defender 90 project. Christian was back on this one this week. It's moving quite well, a little slowly, but it's moving. So he did headliners. Now, these are not covered yet, but they are stripped of their original covering. You can see the back half section right there. This is the front half section with the sunroof. They are stripped. They have been cleaned. There's going to be another kind of a little bit of a cleaning. There's a little bit of mold coming in right here where the sunroof leaked. So we're going to use a little bit of a diluted bleach and a light scrubbing to get that cleaned up there. But next week we should be putting on the actual headliner material. Hopefully Christian will be. I won't be. I'm not working on this next week. But Christian will hopefully be putting on the headliner material. We also want to get the windows in. We can probably do that next week as well. We were going to, and I think we've debated back and forth, and I think the smart move here. Originally, I was like, let's tint the windows before we put them in. And I think the smart thing, and this is Christian's side of it, he was kind of like, let's tint them afterwards. I think that is the smart move. Let's tint the windows after they're in the truck. That way, if you don't want the window tint, if, say, the owner doesn't want it anymore, or, say, the owner sells it on to somebody who doesn't want it anymore, you can take that window tint off relatively easily without having to go up underneath the seals and try and yank it out that way. And they look good. It's a proper window tinting job. You won't see where the tint ends when it hits the seal. It'll be done right. So, windows should be going in this soon, and the headliner's going to get done here soon. There's honestly not a lot left. I think he was also doing some sun visor work this week on it. I think he was making up or drawing up the plans to make up a bracket. He's got a different sun visor than what the factory used. They're actually an aircraft style sun visor. Apparently they're pretty popular in the Defender crowd these days. So he's putting those sun visors in this, and there's a bracket that you make up in order to fit them. And Christian was, I believe, drawing up dimensional plans to do that. So we will be going to the metal store on Monday to pick up metal, not only for this, but the other project in the room that's going to take up all my time, Lagonda. Lagonda project has not had a lot done on it this week, and we'll get to that in a minute as to why I haven't really worked on this. Part of it's the Triumph, but there's another project that we'll get to it. Lagonda, we're going to get some either brass or copper, probably thin sheet, and we're going to do some edging in brass or copper for this firewall to finish off these kind of rough aluminum to wood edges here that are on the edge. I think it'll really class it up, add a little bit more pomp and circumstance without going full Bugatti engine turn firewall, which sometimes it works and sometimes I don't like it. Anyway, I'm going to be back on that next week for sure. We're going to do some firewall work next week. I'm also going to tear down the carburetors, which are right here on the bench. I'm going to tear these down, get kits ordered for these, and get these in the process of being rebuilt. The exhaust manifold is ready to come back from porcelain coating for this car already. They've done a knockout job of it. Really looks good. Can't wait to show you guys. We also, I believe, the magnetos are ready to go. And we need to get up to the machine shop and find out where they're at with the engine on it. We have the cylinder head here. That's done. We just need to get the engine block here itself. We've got a lot of parts for that engine that need to be restored before they go back on that engine, along with some updates for that engine that it gets while it's disassembled. And one of those is the timing assemblies. We go from the original style timing chain to a modern triplex duplex timing chain, which looks more like a bicycle chain, but it's wider. I can't remember what the original chain was called, what the original style of chain was called for timing on these, but they did use them in other things. If you're familiar with Land Rover V8s, their timing chain, the original ones are of the same kind of quality, where it's kind of like a stacks of strips of metal. I don't know what it's called, but this is getting an updated style chain, which means I have to replace all of the drive gears for the timing and the ancillaries to a newer style chain update. So there's work to be done on the engine part. So even if I don't have the engine, I got a lot of work to do engine part wise. I've got a lot of work to do on the firewall with it. I've got wiring work to do. We've got a lot of work to do, and time is running out on this thing. So what do you think I'm doing about it? Well, I made the terrible decision to purchase a project, a dumb project, a project that I was like, this is going to help the shop, but it's also something that I've kind of wanted for a while. I went out and I bought a truck. It's a shop truck. It's a truck. It's a work truck. All right. This is not. I'm not rolling in a Bighorn, Longhorn, Texas edition, whatever, steakhouse they named their trucks after. I don't know. I'm not running in one of those. It's none of that kind of stuff. It is a 1988 Chevrolet C3500 OBS style flatbed dually single cab pickup truck, and it is also a manual, and it looks terrible, and I'm shooting some other videos about it and during the process of what I'm doing with it. I drove it here from Edwardsville, Illinois. Probably paid too much for it, probably hate everything about it, but it's bare bones. There's no air conditioning. It's as bare bones can get. However, we're going through and I spent a couple afternoons this week doing some hey, what does it need? Hey, what does it need? Let's do a compression test. Let's do this and that and the other. And it came down to, I ended up totally disabling it because right there is cylinder head number 1, and right there is cylinder head number 2 for this truck. This cylinder head right here is bank 2, I guess is what they call it. It's cylinders 2, 4, 6, and 8. And cylinder 8, the rest of the cylinders had about 150 to 170 PSI compression. Cylinder 8, however, had 100 PSI compression, and then the next time I checked it, it had 20, and then the next time it had 40, and then the next time it had 60. And I thought, well, that's weird. Pulled the valve cover off, found that there were no push rods doing anything for that cylinder. And I thought, well, with no push rods, the valves are definitely closed. Why am I not getting compression? Well, I think we found that there's a dowel rod that wasn't pulled out of the cylinder head, and there's a dowel rod in the block. And I think it was holding the head up just enough to where the gasket would seal, but not enough to give you good compression. So I'm going to be throwing some parts at that project here, but probably not next week, but probably on a weekend sometime, because I really can't work on that project during business hours. Can't do it. I got too much to do. But I am shooting video of it So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, which is not our normal stuff, hopefully keep your eyes peeled for that fun shop project video. It was an adventure so far. It's been quite entertaining. We have seen factory options that we didn't know were factory options, like no fascia vents at all. You could opt to have no fascia vents on an 80s Chevrolet pickup truck. Now, my dad has owned 80s and 90s and 70s and stuff. He's owned a bunch of different GM pickup trucks, and he would always talk about how, like, back in the day when you ordered your truck, the passenger seat was optional. And I was like, that's hooey, whatever. I think he was right. I don't think any option was checked on that truck. I don't think any option was picked on that truck. So, it doesn't have fascia vents. You can't blow fresh air at your face. You can't do it. It's weird. It's a weird one. Anyway, we'll get into that in those videos, not on these videos. So, that being said, that's the update this week. I hope you all have enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Get that bell notification icon, and I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful one, folks. Bye.